Our boy here had just cleared a dungeon, but instead of getting a random reward, the system made him choose the rarest dungeon drop, making his deadweight teammate jealous and claim that he should share his loot, even though they did nothing but yap and bait our boy to the monsters because of his OP gear. So picture this, 10 years ago, out of nowhere, the gray zones just showed up. No warning, no explanation, just chaos. This phenomenon pops up randomly all over the world, and these zones are crawling with monsters that are basically running a one-sided war against humanity. It's not even a fight at that point, it's a full-blown massacre. Even humanity's best, most advanced weapons, the ones everyone was so proud of, completely useless now. And here's the kicker. Anyone who stays too long inside these dungeons slowly turns to stone and dies. On top of that, if the zones aren't cleared fast enough, they just keep growing until eventually they'd swallow the entire world whole. And that's when the professionals showed up. The chosen few. Archers, swordsmen, mages, you name it. They're built different, way beyond what a normal human can do. And honestly, they're the only ones who stand a chance against the monsters inside the zones. These people grind through dungeons to get stronger so they can keep pushing back the invasion. Fast forward to now, the city's in absolute chaos. 3 professionals are throwing everything they've got at a gray wolf, because if they don't take it down fast, the zone's going to expand. The warrior holding the front line eats a direct hit from a powerful laser, and the other 2 use that exact moment to combo their powers and land the finishing blow. Relief washes over them. They finally killed a level 2 wolf, and honestly, they're kind of smug about it too, since they used the warrior as bait to get there. They start walking off, not even bothering to check if the guy's actually dead, because to them he was never more than cannon fodder anyway. Meanwhile, the warrior, right on the edge of blacking out, is hit with a wave of pain so intense it actually snaps him back to consciousness, and he wakes up with zero idea what's going on. He gets up and everything feels off. Last thing he remembers is working late. He has no clue how he ended up passed out in some random place. Then he glances down at a puddle on the ground, and that's when it hits him. The face and body reflected back aren't his. A brutal headache slams into him right after, and a flood of memories that don't belong to him come rushing in. Monsters, gray zones, all of it. And just like that it clicks. He's transmigrated. He's a professional now, in a whole new world. But yeah, disappointment hits almost immediately, because he's landed in a body that had literally just gotten used as cannon fodder in its very first dungeon. Classic. He knows most people who transmigrate get handed some kind of special ability. He got the short end of the stick, stuck as cannon fodder specialized in melee combat. That's when something catches his eye. A system window pops up, congratulating him on activating the free selection reward system. Basically, he can now handpick any reward that drops from a dungeon. He sits with that for a second. Normally rewards are random, and he's never even heard of a system like this. Once it sinks in though, he's thrilled, because this basically means a 100% shot at the best gear every time. That alone puts him ahead of literally everyone else, and honestly, his situation just went from garbage to not so bad. He decides to test it out right away, since he just cleared a dungeon. He picks a rare weapon with a 0.01% drop rate, and a piece of fine armor to go with it. A notification pops up, congratulating him on landing the wolf slaying blade and wolf leather armor. The blade's rare tier, and has a penetration effect against level 5 or lower wolves. It's got an 80% chance to trigger an instant kill. The armor's excellent grade, boosting his armor stat by 10 points. He's practically buzzing. Most people wouldn't pull something like this in 100 tries, and here he is, getting it on his first attempt. From here on out, the best gear is basically guaranteed every time he clears something. Our boy leaves the dungeon, thinking about just how dangerous this world really is, and how surviving means he's gonna have to keep fighting as a professional. At least now he's got the reward system backing him up. He spots a bus stop and realizes, despite the monsters and gray fog everywhere, this world isn't all that different from his old one. Once he's on the bus, he zones out, thinking he should head home first and gather intel on this world before making any real moves. But then mid-route, gray fog starts creeping in, and the driver shouts for everyone to brace themselves. They've rolled straight into a fog zone. Panic instantly spreads through the bus, because everyone knows what that means. They're about to become monster food. Of all the days, people mutter, cursing their luck. Our boy realizes ordinary people don't stand a chance alone here, so he yells for everyone to stay calm and stay seated. The fog thickens around the bus, and just as he notices something's off, the entire vehicle gets sliced clean in half by a laser, like it was nothing. Now stranded with no ride, people start screaming that it's over. Only a professional can fight these things, and professionals are rare enough that hoping one shows up feels like a joke. Our boy speaks up again, telling everyone to relax, and drops the bomb. He's actually a professional and he can fight. The driver lights up at that, relieved, saying they're close to the 2nd Division's turf, so they just need to hold out till backup arrives. He then asks what level our boy's class is. Our boy tells him, level 1 warrior. The man's face drops instantly, muttering that warrior's already a weak class on its own, and being level 1 on top of that makes it basically hopeless. Everyone spirals, because the monster that showed up is level 2, and a level 1 warrior's barely stronger than a regular civilian. Our boy expected exactly this reaction. Warriors sit at the very bottom of the food chain in this world, socially speaking. He shifts into combat mode and gears up with what he'd pulled from the dungeon. In front of him now, a level 2 rhinoceros. He draws his new sword, knowing that even at level 1, his gear alone puts him above his level. Strength-wise, he's punching at a level 3 professional's weight. He charges in, and his first swing clashes against the monster's thick hide. He leaps into the air mid-fight and shouts out loud that sure, he might have the most basic common class there is, but between his reward system and his own grit, he's going to get stronger than anyone. The rhino lunges, jaw wide open, but our boy's counter is so devastating, he splits the monster clean in two, like it's nothing. The crowd erupts. Watching a level 2 monster die in one hit gives everyone a spark of hope. Our boy's pleased with the win, though a little annoyed. Nothing dropped this time. Job done. He just says his goodbyes and walks off on foot. No big speech needed. A few minutes later, professionals lock down the area, and after looking things over, one of the experts notes that one-shotting a level 2 monster is a big deal. Whoever did it is worth recruiting. She asks who took the monster down, wanting to track him down herself. The driver tells her the boy already left, and that he was weirdly enough, a level 1 warrior. She finds that almost impossible to believe, unless he's got some rare item boosting his stats beyond his actual level. Meanwhile, our boy finally makes it home, only to find the place plastered in graffiti, demanding he pay up his debts. 2 men are waiting for him, saying they honestly thought he'd skip town to dodge what he owed. Our boy already knows exactly who these guys are. According to the memories now living in his head, the body's previous owner racked up a massive debt, trying to buy his way into a decent profession and failing spectacularly. The old owner blew the cash. Our boy's the one stuck paying it back now. Our boy points out that per the contract, there's still 3 days left before the deadline. The guy just grabs him by the shirt, telling him not to bother. There's no way he's scraping together the money in 30 days, let alone 3, since the debt sits at 5 million. He storms off, promising to come back in 3 days with backup to collect, and warns that if our boy doesn't pay up, the house is gone. Our boy has genuinely no clue how he's supposed to pull 5 million together that fast. Inside, his phone's blowing up with notifications. Someone's offering 500,000 for an archer weapon. Another's begging for help on a mission with a highly negotiable payout. And then it clicks. Dungeon loot can be sold for real money. So the plan writes itself. Use the reward system to farm rare gear, sell it, and knock out the debt. He actually feels good about this now. A debt this small isn't going to be the thing that stops him from getting stronger. From the old owner's memories, he learns this world isn't just gray zone dungeons. There are normal dungeons too, meant purely for leveling up. He figures he'll hit one of those first to grind levels, and grab some free gear on the side. He notices people selling gear for roughly 500,000 apiece, and from what he can tell, a level 1 dungeon caps out at rare grade drops. The priciest long-range weapon he sees goes for around 600. His stomach drops a bit when he realizes he can only clear 1 dungeon per day. 3 days definitely isn't enough time to hit 5 million that way. Still, he shrugs it off. Good gear picked through his own reward system means he can already one-shot level 2 monsters with ease. So really, taking on a level 3 dungeon or higher isn't out of the question at all. He pockets his phone and lies down for a bit, already set on pushing for a higher level dungeon tomorrow to speed the debt payoff along. The next day, he heads out to scope the dungeon situation. In the city's central district, professionals are out clearing the gray mist, relatively safe territory, which also means the farther you get from the city center, the nastier things get, but the rewards scale up right alongside the danger. Our boy spots the entrance to the level 2 Lone Bear Cave dungeon, and a few professionals recognize him. He's the cannon fodder who was supposed to have died the day before. They try to rope him in, saying they need a tank for the new dungeon. Our boy shuts it down, saying he's not interested. He's aiming for a level 3 dungeon instead. Deep down, he's not making that mistake twice. No more teaming up with people willing to throw him away. The guy laughs it off, saying if our boy actually had any luck, he wouldn't have gotten stuck with the warrior class in the first place. He suggests our boy go find a restaurant to wash dishes at instead, because you're not surviving this. The girl chimes in too, mocking him for nearly dying in a level 1 dungeon, and now somehow, thinking about a level 3. He can't even argue. The old owner's life really was that unlucky. But with the reward system now in play, luck's finally on his side. The guy pushes further, guessing he's just desperate because of his debt, and throwing his life away in a dungeon way above his level. Our boy's patience runs out, and he fires back that compared to the money he owes, the life this guy owes him is going to be a lot harder to pay back. They go quiet, confused by what he means, and as they watch him walk off, they start wondering, uneasily, if he somehow knows what they did the day before, when they deliberately wore him down against the boss until he nearly died. Regardless, our boy heads for the level 3 dungeon entrance. The system flags that he's attempting to enter above his level, and asks if he's sure. He already knows he's out of options, so he walks through the portal without a second thought. Once inside, a notification tells him the objective: wipe out the bandits attacking Qingping village. A handful of bandits are already watching him. Our boy stretches, almost amused. This dungeon looks nothing like the real world outside. Turns out, per the old owner's memory, every dungeon runs its own storyline and setting. As long as professionals follow the plot to completion, they clear it and cash in the rewards. More people file into the dungeon around this time, saying that since it's level 3, nobody here should be a total beginner. One of them asks the group to share their info and levels. The other 4 introduce themselves as level 3 professionals, 2 snipers, a healer and an assassin. And that's when it comes out our boy's actual name is Wang Jifan. Our boy Wang realizes that even though the group was randomly matched, it's actually a pretty solid mix, with him rounding it out as the tank. The others can't believe they're stuck with a level 1, basically asking if he's trying to get himself killed this young. The girl's the angriest. She doesn't care if he wants to die. She just doesn't want him dragging the team down, especially since their only tank is apparently useless. Wang points out that low level or not, his gear more than makes up for it. Yun Chang, surprised, asks if he's secretly rich, since that gear alone is worth hundreds of thousands and technically qualifies him for a level 3 run. Wang finds that funny. If he actually had money like that, he'd never be risking his neck 2 levels above where he belongs. The team leader lays out the plan. Assassin scouts first, and during the fight the tank pulls enemy aggro onto himself. He tries reassuring Wang by saying the healer will keep him topped off. Wang shrugs the guy's hand off his shoulder, making it clear, sure, he's a warrior, but he's not throwing himself into a crowd of enemies for anyone. He knows exactly why he's saying this. The old body died doing precisely that as cannon fodder. He's not repeating that mistake. Everyone only gets 1 life. Wang doesn't like that answer, insisting that's literally the warrior's job, and it's ridiculous to expect snipers to hold the front line instead. Wang counters that charging in blind isn't bravery, that's just being cannon fodder, and that he'll only step into the fight when it actually matters. Yun Chang warns that if he won't pull his weight, everyone fights solo, and he won't be getting any healing if he gets hurt. Wang's totally fine with that since he already figured he wasn't getting healed anyway. Right then, an NPC bursts into the village, warning that the bandits are already closing in on the outskirts. The countdown starts, and the bandits creep closer and closer until they finally storm the village. Wang assumes dealing with bandits should be easy work for the ranged fighters, but he doubts a level 3 dungeon would really be that simple, and he's right. The bandits can dodge shots and even block bullets outright, with reflexes that honestly feel closer to gray zone monsters than regular enemies. The team scrambles to adjust tactics, and this time the shots land. There's just too many attacks coming at once to dodge them all. Wang notices something useful. Though fast as the bandits are, their defense is actually pretty weak. One bandit sneaks up behind the healer and catches her off guard. That's Wang's cue. He steps in, blocks the strike, and sends the bandit flying backward. The man feels his blade rattling from the impact and starts to panic right before Wang splits it clean in half. The shooter's honestly stunned by how strong a rare-grade weapon can be, letting a level 1 casually kill things that should be way out of his range. Wang's now fully surrounded, but he's not sweating it. He knows he can drop them in 1 hit each. Then, out of nowhere, a bullet grazes past his face, and he flinches. Sure, the actual targets were 2 approaching bandits, and he assumes the team's just aiming at them, but from where he's standing, he's caught right in the crossfire too. Yun Chang laughs it off, and the team keeps firing non-stop at every bandit in sight, some rounds glancing off Wang's armor and taking the edge off the damage. Wang's fuming. If it weren't for this armor, he'd already be dead. And disposable cannon fodder like warriors don't just die to monsters, apparently they die to their own team too. He tries blocking the barrage, and demands to know what the hell they think they're doing. Han fires back that Wang's probably working with the bandits, since he's the one blocking their shots. That's the last straw. Wang loses it, promising they'll regret treating him like disposable trash. He starts walking toward the group, but an explosion rips through the village, and an absurdly powerful bandit steps out. The dungeon objective updates: defeat the fortress boss to claim the clear rewards. This bandit's on a whole different level from the rest, and the team panics, screaming for everyone to focus fire because they're completely cooked. Bullets bounce off the boss harmlessly, only making it angrier, which conveniently also catches Wang's eye. The monster stomps down and launches itself at the group, flattening Han instantly, and tearing the leader's arm clean off. The leader stares up at this thing, completely blank on what to do, and just bolts, screaming for help. As he sprints past Wang, he begs him to tank the boss so he can slip away and grab the DPS rewards for himself. Wang expected nothing less. Professionals only remember a warrior's worth when there's something in it for them. He rushes the one-armed man, saying he'll help him, but even after landing a hit on the boss, it barely scratches it, even with a rare-tier weapon, which makes Wang wonder if there's a hidden mechanic needed to actually take this thing down. The shooter appears, begging him to lure it away. Before Wang can even respond, the boss slams its fist down exactly where they'd been standing, and Yun Zhang's left shaking, having barely dodged death. Wang manages to dodge too, but now he's got the boss's full attention, and it doesn't hesitate to charge. He dodges again, takes a swing at its head, and keeps baiting its attention long enough to sprint over to the shooter, who frankly isn't being very smart about any of this. As he closes in, he tells his little friend not to run, because they're doing this together now. The boss smashes through everything in its path again, sending the sniper tumbling in every direction. After Wang toys with it a bit, he redirects its attention once more, luring another ground slam right where the man's standing, and repeats the trick until the guy's genuinely terrified. Once an opening finally appears, Wang lands a clean hit exactly as planned, and the shooter complains bitterly about being used as bait. Wang makes it clear, if he never faces the boss head-on himself, he'll never understand what it actually costs a warrior to take these hits for the team. He runs back toward the rest of the group, who scream at him not to come any closer. The girl throws out a rare scroll that traps anything level 3 or lower inside a 3-meter cage for 10 seconds. Except the cage catches the leader alongside the boss, and he screams for someone to let him out. No such luck. Trapped with no way to survive against something that massive, he's killed instantly. Wang watches it happen, honestly just meaning to teach these people a lesson. He never expected them to be cold enough to sacrifice their own teammate. Either way, the boss is still the priority. Meng Tai shouts, asking if Wang genuinely plans to keep fighting this thing. Even together it feels impossible. Wang doesn't care. He's already got a theory, and the only way to know if it works is to try. The boss is still watching him, and the cage has got 5 seconds left. He thinks it through. A level 3 boss really is on another level, since even level 3 attacks barely scratched it. But the fact that this dungeon's already been cleared before by Gray Zone officials means it's not literally unbeatable. He narrows it down to one likely explanation. Time runs out, the cage vanishes, and Wang charges the boss just as another explosion tears through the village. When the dust clears, Wang's standing there, sword driven straight through the bandit. He yanks it free and gets a notification congratulating him on defeating the brigand boss. The monster dissolves and he gains 20 experience, hitting level 2. He's thrilled. He called it right. The boss did have some kind of damage reduction gimmick, and finding its weak point was the only way to one-shot it. The system also congratulates him for clearing the level 3 fortress, and now come the rewards, the part he's been waiting for. Right then the girl walks up claiming he wouldn't have won without her help, and demands a cut of the loot. The assassin backs her up, saying everyone contributed. Wang isn't having it. He's already been generous enough not holding a grudge over getting shot by his own team, and now they're trying to squeeze him for gear he earned solo. How? The masked one tells them to drop it. They'd have died without him anyway, and says he's leaving. Wang stops them cold, saying no one said they were allowed to walk away. The two panic, asking what he wants, especially since the Grey Mist administration bans professionals from killing each other without cause. He tells them plainly, they should have died to that boss, so they'd better be grateful they're alive at all. Both of them thank him, visibly sweating, and vanish from the dungeon instantly. Wang checks his rewards. He gets to pick up to 3 items. He's pleasantly surprised, since this being a high-level dungeon apparently earns him a bonus pick too. The options: 2 Class B skills, 1 Class A skill, 1 Class S skill, 3 Class SS skills, and a final set of 1 Class S and 2 Class A skills. He's honestly stunned by the sheer number of high-tier skill books here, given how rare drops like these usually are. His reward system is basically broken in the best way. His first pick is the rank SS skill, Drowsy Radiance. It lets him train swordsmanship while asleep, boosting attack power by 10% per level, tripled if his class is warrior. Second pick, Rapid Movement. Moves like the wind, boosting speed by 10% per level, tripled for assassins. He knows he's not getting the max value being a warrior, but even so, a warrior can absolutely make good use of extra speed, especially after getting chased by that boss. More speed would have been a lifesaver. Lastly, he grabs Quick Loot, meant for ranged classes, purely because he can flip it for cash, enough to knock out at least 1 million of his debt. This reward system is genuinely broken, he thinks. Beyond clearing his debt, it's cracking open doors he never thought he'd have. He starts imagining just how much hidden treasure is sitting in these dungeons, and how much power, maybe even enough to change the world itself, is up for grabs. Since paying off the debt fast is priority 1, he checks recent market prices. He lists Quick Loot low, expecting maybe just over 1 million, but barely seconds after posting it, an offer rolls in. Turns out Class S ranged skill books are in high demand. The opening offers 1.2 million, and he books a meeting for the next day. Before heading out, he decides tonight's the night to test Drowsy Radiance. Back home, he falls asleep, and the skill kicks in. He wakes up somewhere completely different, though he can't see a thing. Still, the physical sensations feel exactly like the real world, and with nothing else around, his other senses sharpen instantly. Something approaches, and he's caught off guard, realizing his opponent is himself. The clone attacks, swords clash, and he counters, genuinely impressed by how real it all feels, until he finally cuts his double in half. And that's when it clicks for him. Getting stronger really does mean outgrowing who he used to be. Another clone shows up, then another. They just keep coming. He tells them all to come at once. He'll cut them down one by one. Meanwhile, over at City H's Anti-Gray Zone Operations HQ, officials are mapping out recent incidents. The deputy director explains that the department's top elites have been deployed to clear the Grey Mist. Still, he asks the veterans if there's any backup plan in case things go sideways. One of them mentions a major discovery. Someone recently managed to prevent a sudden Gray Zone incident on their own, which isn't unheard of since unaffiliated professionals occasionally help out. So the deputy director asks, what's actually surprising about that? She clarifies, this time's different, because they caught an arsonist. An interrogation revealed something huge. The Prophet, leader of the Eye of the End, never foresaw this person in his prophecy. In other words, this is the first known crack in the Prophet's precognition, ever. Liao Chun wonders aloud whether this unknown person could be the key to breaking the Prophet's foresight entirely, and asks if they can be tracked down. She confirms they've already started searching the residential areas along the bus route, and everyone's hoping he turns up soon. The next morning, Wang wakes up, thinking about how exhausting it is fighting hundreds of versions of himself all night, even while technically asleep and cultivating. He wonders if it even worked. Checking his skills, his base swordsmanship jumped straight to level 3, while the 2 dungeon skills sit at level 1. He can't believe it. One night and his sword technique climbed a full level. Sure, that's more energy burned, but hey, leveling up in his sleep is still a win. Later, he arrives at the meeting spot, wondering if the big guy waiting there is his buyer. The man stands, asking if he's the one selling the skill book. Wang pulls it from his inventory, but asks for payment first. The man transfers the money and admits he's shocked a level 2 warrior managed to drop a class S skill book. Unbelievably lucky, he says. The transfer comes in at 800. Wang immediately calls it out. They'd agreed on 1.2 million. Out of nowhere, the man pulls a pistol, laughing that he doesn't see why a mere warrior deserves that kind of price, and orders him to hand it over before he gets shot. The next second, an explosion rips through the alley, and Wang's got the guy by the throat, making it very clear he doesn't appreciate being called mere, and asking if the man really thinks a level 2 like him can't handle a level 4 with ease. The man scrambles to promise he'll never underestimate warriors again. Wang lets him go, warning him he'd rather not deal with the authorities showing up, so he'd better transfer the rest now. Once it's settled, Wang walks away with 1.4 million total, including an extra 200,000 as an apology for the trouble. Being a man of principle, he hands over the skill book and even returns the guy's gun. The man thanks him sincerely, saying that book will let him finally take a crack at the Cataclysm dungeon with a full 12-person team, only realizing afterward that he said way too much. Wang has no clue what that even is, though judging by the name alone it sounds like it pays out big. Once he's tucked his new book away, the man explains it's a massively popular dungeon on the professional forums, supposedly the hardest challenge available to anyone under level 5. Players have to survive 3 days in a post-apocalyptic city crawling with zombies, and the death toll's so high that professionals just call it newbie hell. Wang's interest is instantly piqued, and he asks where to find the entrance. High risk usually means high reward after all. The man tells him where, but questions whether he's actually serious about trying his luck at level 2 when the dungeon's level 5 with a survival rate under 1%. Wang just smiles. He'll only know once he tries. Deep down, he's even more hyped. The higher the risk, the rarer the loot's gotta be. Later he reaches the dungeon, and the professionals there immediately clock him as a warrior and write him off. The objective: survive 3 days in a city mid-zombie apocalypse. The system flags again that he's attempting a dungeon way above his level and asks him to think it through. Wang just asks if everyone's ready, since he's honestly itching to get inside. He enters, and the system informs him he's been separated from his team and needs to regroup to stop a zombie attack. He's equipped with excellent grade armor and chooses to mask his appearance. He knows that even at level 2, his stats and gear crush most of the competition here, and honestly, no teammates means no one slowing him down. He also figures he doesn't have to strictly follow the system's script. His actual goal is still gear, strength, and paying off that debt. He spots a store and thinks stocking up couldn't hurt. Inside, he grabs noodles, sports drinks, and hemostatic bandages. That's when a dreadlocked guy comes crashing through the glass, startling Wang. Turns out he's fleeing a full zombie horde, and when he spots Wang, he shouts that he's finally safe. Wang draws his sword and clears out the nearby zombies without breaking a sweat. He tells the coward, let's call him Jamal from now on, to stay sharp since trouble seems to follow him everywhere, and puts him on cover duty since he's packing a decent gun. Using his sharpened swordsmanship, Wang starts carving through the zombie wave with borderline absurd precision. He notices something odd though. The horde keeps growing even as he clears them out. He wonders if the corpses themselves are drawing more in. Then he catches an irritating sound and spots a different zombie entirely, one that seems to be emitting the noise itself. Wang recognizes it as some kind of abnormal type, probably calling the others in. Even though wiping them all out would be easy, using his wind control to escape sounds smarter, except the horde's blocking the only exit, so he needs to deal with the loudspeaker zombie first. He tells Jamal to hold the troublemakers back while he goes quiet on the aggro side. Jamal panics, saying there's no way, he's just a gunner, he can't do that. Wang tells him to at least try since he'll never know unless he does, and just asks for 5 seconds. Jamal caves. With 1 free stat point, Wang dumps it into agility, now sitting at 11 strength, 11 agility, 10 stamina. With his ridiculous speed he weaves through the store while Jamal sprays bullets at anything blocking the path. Wang scales the ceiling, reaches the loudspeaker zombie, and rips it apart. He's relieved it worked, but strangely the rest of the horde's behavior flips instantly. Killing the commander apparently enrages every zombie within 15 meters, boosting their attack speed and defense by 10 points each. Wang's stomach drops. The loudspeaker zombie was bait all along. Now the horde's attacking like maniacs, and even his sword strikes barely dent their beefed-up defense. At this rate he can't clear them all, but no new zombies are spawning, so bailing's still an option. He's about to do exactly that when he hears Jamal still cornered, desperately trying to hold up his end of the deal. Wang freezes for a second, thinking that in this world, strength makes the rules, and he doesn't owe some stranger anything. Jamal meanwhile is shouting between swings that Wang's clearly the strongest professional he's ever seen, and that he believes in him. But the pressure keeps mounting. Wang looks over the mess he's landed himself in, and figures fine, if he's supposedly the strongest, he can't just walk away now. He takes a breath and in a blink, cuts the whole horde in half. Jamal's thrilled he actually pulled through. Wang though isn't in the mood for a heartfelt moment. He grabs Jamal by the collar and launches him toward the exit like a baseball, making the guy cry out completely confused about why he just got yeeted across the street. Wang grumbles that the man's heavier than he looks and that the throw wasn't worth the energy. Still, small win. Now he can use his wind step technique to leap clean over the remaining zombies without them noticing. They finally clear the store, and Wang tells them to bring on the next challenge. That one was easy. As they walk, Jamal admits he knew this dungeon was dangerous, but never thought it'd be this terrifying. Suddenly someone appears screaming, chased by a giant monster that crushes him flat with a single punch. Wang has no idea what that thing even is, and oddly enough the mutant blows right past them at absurd speed and keeps going. They realize they were never the target, but that's honestly more unsettling, since they clearly dodged death by a hair. Other professionals show up, and a gunner tells them they got insanely lucky. He explains that the regular zombies around here are more docile than elsewhere, and the real threat is the mutant that just passed. Wang asks why it didn't attack them. The gunner says the zombie king only hunts twice a day, sunrise and sunset. If you hole up in an isolated zombie-free room during those windows, you're usually fine, but if it hasn't tagged enough people by then, it might strike outside those hours too. Bottom line, 2 guaranteed death windows a day, no exceptions. They make it to a safe house where there's a small shop trading gear for points, but everything's limited stock. Wang finds it weird that water's the priciest item on the list, and wonders if clean water's really the rarest thing here. One guy warns him not to touch the faucet, saying if he wants actual water, he'll need to head to the other floors. The water in these rooms is filthy. Wang said he understood and asked what the man was looking at, though he noticed that he was taking a while to react. It was only then that he got startled when a black root suddenly showed up in the sink, and he remembered that it had also appeared on the corpse moments earlier. He joined the others, and there was a point ranking system and an exchange shop where points were earned by eliminating infected people. Each player had a certain number of points, and they were discussing how they got hurt the previous day, with some barely having enough points to pay for a boxed meal. Our boy asked whether he could take 10 bottles, since that would eat up half the stock. See, as a close combat warrior, he burns through a lot of water. The professionals asked whether he'd lost his mind for wasting so many points, and even mocked him, saying warriors always die first in dungeons like this one. Jamal got furious at the provocation and made it clear that Wang was the strongest warrior he had ever seen. Shihao thought this was perfect, and said our boy would stand guard that night, since warriors are good at defense. Wang asked whether they could just hide in the room instead, since then no one would need to guard the door. The man said they had already tried that, but no matter how slow the infected are, if they aren't eliminated at night, they keep gathering and eventually break down the door. Then with a smile, he said that whether our boy liked it or not, he was going to stand guard. He had no problem with that, but he wanted to see how many of them would survive the night. Much later, the zombies started gathering, and everyone who approached got eliminated. The gunner showed up and said he was going to fetch water. Wang thought that was strange, because they could simply exchange the points earned from killing zombies for it. The professionals laughed because he still thought the points were enough, not to mention that the zombie king attacks the person with the highest score. Jamal told him not to listen to them, because they were clearly setting a trap. The blonde man laughed, saying there was no point in saying much, because Wang had already accumulated a large number of points. Our boy figured ordinary zombies weren't strong, but no one wanted to waste points, so all the cleanup work got pushed onto him. Clearly they were looking for a scapegoat. Thinking about this, he warned that if they tried to use him as bait, there would be serious consequences, and in the end, the outcome might not be what the guy wanted. As the night went on, he took a nap, using the opportunity to improve his skills while asleep. Sometime later, a loud sound woke everyone up, and the guy panicked, wanting to know what that noise was. The leader couldn't figure out why the Corpse King had appeared when there were no infected people inside. Only then did they realize that the old man, Lu Yuan, had gotten infected and was among them. Suddenly, something pounded against the ceiling until it caved in, causing the zombie boss to appear before everyone. The professionals felt relieved, since our boy had eliminated most of the zombies, so he would surely die right there. However, their joy didn't last long as the gunman's head went flying and got devoured by the monster, proving that none of it had anything to do with points. But Ha already knew this because when he first entered, he already had the highest score and the Corpse King had seen him but hadn't attacked, instead finishing off the guy behind him first. On the other hand, he realized that the Zombie King was actually targeting people with black roots inside their bodies. He pulled out the root and said the Corpse King never attacks the person with the highest score, since it targets people connected to the water fountain. Again, he stressed that the Corpse King was targeting people associated with the water fountain. The professionals didn't believe him or understand how he figured it out. Our boy found it wild that they still hadn't gotten it. At first the players worked as hard as possible to earn points just to exchange them for a little more water. It was only once they'd run out of enough points that they risked touching the water fountain. In the end, they never even knew how they had been chosen as targets. Our boy still wasn't certain about this connection, but he decided to cut off the route just to be safe. The monster immediately charged forward and tried to attack him. People started running like mad because the Corpse King had gone berserk. Our boy said he would lure it away and that everyone had to stay away from the water fountain. The boss appeared once again, and Wang thought it was great that he managed to lure the monster into a narrow corridor because despite being powerful, the terrain would restrict its movements. The monster launched the first attack, but Wang was faster and landed the first sword strike. However, the blow barely did anything, forcing him to retreat. While the Zombie King kept attacking non-stop, he got forced to keep backing away and realized the monster had overwhelming strength and that a direct confrontation wasn't worth it. Because of this, he moved elsewhere and kept a distance of half a step. The zombie tried to punch him, but he dodged, declared this was a warrior's territory, and prepared to deliver the final blow. The Corpse King simply waited and blocked the sword strike with its hand. Our boy got startled because the monster had predicted his attack and, to make matters worse, started emitting an intense power that forced Wang to retreat even further. The boss actually said, "I understand it now." He sensed something bad was about to happen and figured he'd better hide first. He found it strange because the monster had been chasing him so closely and then suddenly acted as if blind. Despite not understanding the situation, he searched the room he entered until, out of nowhere, the Corpse King appeared and smashed through the wall like John Cena. He couldn't understand what was happening because he had already left the monster's field of vision and still got found. Right as he said this, a zombie attacked from behind trying to backshot him, but it went down with a single strike. Once again, the Corpse King got disoriented, looking every which way. Our boy started to understand why the monster sometimes seemed to have eyes, and other times seemed blind. Basically, the infected were acting as its eyes. If that was the case, he decided he would eliminate all of the monster's eyes first. He started killing everyone in front of him, limiting the Corpse King's vision. He felt more relieved since he had impaired the enemy's sight. The sun started to rise, and suddenly water began overflowing from every faucet. This confused Wang until the professionals started fleeing from several zombies, and the water flooding the area gave birth to new monsters. He finally understood the zombies in the dungeon weren't created from nothing. They were using the entire building's sewage system to continuously create zombies. No wonder the water was absurdly expensive. This had nothing to do with a lack of resources. The situation forced the players to touch the sewage and eventually turn into zombies. Because of this, he asked the two of them whether the electrical appliances in the building could still be used. They replied that they could, as the lights in the rooms were still on. He explained he had discovered the key to solving the situation and would definitely send the Corpse King to its doom. He knew there was electricity because the elevators were still working. He then ran, confident he would find a way to clear the dungeon. First, the Corpse King relies on ordinary zombies to scout the terrain ahead, and if he could lure the boss into the elevator shaft, the result would be interesting to see. The blonde guy asked whether he was running away, since if he hadn't provoked the boss earlier, they wouldn't be in danger. Our boy told him to stay away from the sewage if he wanted to stay alive, then ran in that direction to lure the Zombie King. He rushed into the elevator, and the monster drew closer and closer with tremendous speed. However, the door closed faster, and he activated the elevator to go up. He then made a hole in the ceiling because it was now time to counterattack. As the elevator rose, the Zombie King destroyed the door, and our boy thought it was great that the stupid monster had taken the bait. He decided to hide in the gap between the elevator and the wall to play a little game of hide and seek. However, he knew he needed to climb quickly, or the Corpse King would catch him. There were also two platforms, and he wondered which one would be better to hide on, until he finally made his decision, because one of the elevator cars was already damaged and about to collapse, supported by only two cables. If he could make the monster jump onto it, it would certainly lose its balance. He threw a rock to attract the attention of the sightless monster, and the Corpse King immediately leapt toward the sound. It reached the platform, and our boy without hesitation cut the elevator cable, causing the monster to lose its balance. Wang took advantage of the opportunity and leapt as well, landing a powerful strike directly on the monster's chest, causing it to roar wildly. However, before falling, it managed to grab onto one of the cables and prepared to counterattack. Our boy, already expecting something like this, simply dodged and declared that this time it wouldn't be able to escape. Then with his most powerful slash, he finished off the Corpse King by cutting its body in half. He felt relieved to have won, and the professionals appeared, unable to believe he had truly defeated the boss alone. However, Jiffon started to find it strange, because they had always treated that monster as the boss. Yet no notification appeared indicating they had cleared the stage. A noise echoed from the top of the shaft, and they saw countless zombies falling toward them. Our boy got startled, and the blonde guy, already desperate, shouted, demanding to know what was happening because those monsters had already died. The zombies kept trying to grab him, and our boy realized simply killing the Corpse King didn't mean the game was over. He thought about everything that had happened so far, the sewage water, the zombies appearing everywhere, and the Corpse King itself. After considering this, he concluded the true cause of the zombie mutation lay at the source of the sewage. Our boy told the two of them to leave because he would go underground alone. Then after walking for a long time, he arrived at a place completely covered in roots. As he'd expected, that place actually housed the true big bad boss, and now he was certain that if he defeated it, he would complete the dungeon. Our boy felt confident that as long as he beat this monster, he'd finish the dungeon with a perfect clear. The true boss launched its first attack, and despite dodging it, Wang realized the room was filling with zombies, and that now trapped in a pincer attack, he needed to find an opening to get closer. He ran while dodging the tentacle attacking him, and realized his escape space was shrinking. The tentacle managed to grab his foot and threw him toward the zombies. Wang grew worried and started cutting through everything to free himself. He knew if this continued he would be cornered sooner or later. Therefore, he needed to find a way to break through the barrier as quickly as possible. Only then did he notice something inside the room, a power distribution box. His greatest surprise was that it still had electricity. Since this monster uses the sewers and roots as its own blood vessels, those vessels could also be used to kill it. With that in mind, he advanced toward the distribution box while provoking the monster. And when he saw the roots heading toward him, he confirmed it had taken the bait. He blocked the attack and grabbed the electrical wires at the same time. Then, without hesitation, threw the fully electrified wire against the monster's roots, causing the boss to scream in agony while even the zombies got electrocuted. As a result, the boss's core got exposed, and our boy decided it was time to finish the job. He charged forward and cut what remained of the boss in half. The destruction of the monster could be felt even outside the building, and with that finishing blow, it disappeared completely. The system congratulated him for completing the Cataclysm dungeon, and informed him the rewards were being calculated. 1 epic chest and 2 rare chests appeared in front of him, and our boy asked the 2 survivors to choose first. Jamal got fascinated by the incredible chest that dropped, while Wang only thought he couldn't reveal to anyone his secret ability to choose rewards through the system. A notification warned they would get sent outside after collecting their rewards, and the blonde boy ran toward the epic chest, but he soon sensed murderous intent directed at him. The boy immediately switched chests and decided the lower quality ones were more suitable for the situation. Our boy said that since the 2 of them were so polite, he would take the epic chest. He could choose up to 3 rewards. In addition, he got informed he was the first player to perfectly complete the level 5 Cataclysm dungeon, so the special rewards would be recalculated. He could also choose to exchange the normal rewards for hidden rewards, and the chest displayed every available option. He obtained the Sacred Judgment musket and still had 2 choices remaining. The other 2 pieces of equipment were the Winkar Starhorn and the Mithril Star Staff. The system asked whether he wanted to make the exchange, and he selected yes. After all, a warrior wouldn't use all 3 items, and the musket would probably be enough to pay off his debt. Although the other pieces of equipment were valuable, he wanted to see the hidden rewards. He thought about the Corpse King, who can see through ordinary zombies, and the Mother Plant, which can control others, and believed it would be great to grab those 2 abilities. As he thought about it, a notification informed him he had acquired new abilities. The abilities in question were the Corpse King's shared vision, and the Mother Plant's consciousness control. Our boy started thinking about this because logically, mission rewards should have been fixed from the beginning, including the hidden rewards. However, at that moment, it was as though the system had heard what he said and transferred the corresponding abilities to him, even displaying them on the screen. He also felt as if something was watching him from behind. He looked specifically toward the generator cabin and noticed a strange symbol. This led him to conclude creatures from the gray zone generally only exist on the surface and don't enter dungeons, meaning the Mother Plant had definitely been placed there on purpose. He connected the pieces with the fact that he obtained those abilities and considered the gray zone itself may also have been artificially created. Now that he'd found this clue, he felt he was Einstein and was confident he would uncover the truth behind it. By perfectly completing the dungeon, he obtained the legendary grade musket, 2 abilities, and enough experience to reach level 4. He opened his status window and liked what he saw, as his basic sword technique was now level 4 and his previous abilities had evolved to level 2. He took out his phone to check the market prices and noticed the legendary dungeon weapon he listed for auction had already received several bids, reaching 3 million, making it even rarer than he imagined. The highest bid had currently reached 3.6 million, and the buyer requested an in-person transaction. He accepted the request because he had now reached level 4 and possessed 1 legendary piece of equipment and 2 new abilities. Although this was still not enough to earn money and pay off all his debts, soon afterward he went to the professional trading center and upon entering, exchanged his equipment for money. This time he received the money properly, and now had 5 million. The buyer commented that he'd heard Wang was a low-level warrior who had once again sold a high-value item, and that apparently he'd figured out who he was. Our boy asked whether he was there to buy something, or just poke around in other people's business. The man warned him that merchandise like this should never have fallen into his hands in the first place, and Wang told him to mind his own business instead of interfering in other people's lives. After saying that, he left. Once he paid off his debt, only 200 remained, and he got upset because he would have to live on a tight budget for some time. But at least the debt had finally been paid. He noticed several people following him, and had already expected something like this, since the mustached man had looked like he would send someone after him. The guards kept their eyes on him the entire time, but after he entered an alley, they simply lost sight of their target. Our boy, standing on top of a building, watched the two fools and figured a low-level warrior, who constantly obtains top-tier equipment to sell, would definitely attract a great deal of attention. When he turned around, he noticed an advertisement from the Gray Zone Administration Bureau, the organization responsible for handling incidents in the Gray Zone, stating they were recruiting professionals for paid work. He considered this the perfect opportunity because, with the status of a third-party contractor for the administration, no one would care about the origin of his equipment. With that in mind, he headed to the Gray Zone Administration Hall and told the receptionist he wanted to know the procedure for accepting highly paid outsourced jobs. She asked him to provide his information and noticed he was a level 4 warrior. The people around him started laughing because a madman of such a low level dared to accept paid missions. And if the requirements were truly that low, there wouldn't be a shortage of service providers. However, the deputy director appeared and ordered everyone to stop yapping because he wanted to know what all the yapping was about. The receptionist explained the level 4 warrior wanted to take on an outsourced job. Liao Chun said he wouldn't even waste his time on this because the Gray Zone had been stable recently and they weren't short on personnel. Our boy found this amusing because Liao Chun was speaking too soon, and he pointed out an outbreak would certainly occur near the plaza that very same day. The deputy director asked whether he understood the gravity of what he was saying, and our boy, aware he wouldn't want to believe him, simply said goodbye and told him that when the alarm goes off he could call him to ask questions, but the price would no longer be the same. Liao Chun, now mad, watched our boy keep farming aura points. Our boy went to the square thinking that after discovering gray zones could be artificially created, he re-examined all the recent incidents. Small zones are more likely to appear in busy public places. Large-scale instances tend to emerge near previously discovered gray zones, and the sequence of recent events shows a concentration of areas around the square moving toward the center. So he sat down, confident it was almost time for this event to happen. At that moment, several alarms started sounding, announcing a new gray zone had appeared near the square, and they were in a state of emergency. The deputy director found it absurd this was happening, and our boy, pleased that his guess was correct, figured some people would desperately want him to come back and take on the outsourced missions. The fog started destroying the area, and everyone started running away, screaming for help, as a completely bizarre monster appeared and attacked. One of them got captured, and the roots completely restrained his body. At the same moment, the police arrived, and the officer in charge said they had to prioritize rescuing the civilians. The police prepared themselves and opened fire on the monster. And while it got distracted blocking the bullets, one of the professional officers advanced from behind to reach the hostage. However, he realized it was already too late, as those roots had completely taken over the man's body. He reported the hostage was probably killed, although he wasn't certain, and she made it clear they couldn't get close to those roots, and that only long-range attacks work. The officer warned they were running out of ammunition, and she reported to her superior the bloodvines in the square could only be attacked from a distance and that their current firepower was insufficient. He thought about what they could do and replied that they had to hold the monster back, and if our boy shows up, they had to keep him in the square at all costs, since he wanted to speak with him personally. She had barely heard this when a flash of light passed beside her. It was Wang, cutting through all the vines in front of him. The officers expressed their surprise, as their special bullets could barely scratch the vine's bark, yet that sword cut through it with a single strike. She approached our boy, asked who he was, and said this was dangerous and that he would interfere with the Gray Zone department. He asked whether she could hold out until the main reinforcements arrived, and even while getting attacked by the vine, managed to cut through every strike as he said he was the only person present capable of handling that gray fog instance. He really does know when to aura farm. She didn't understand what kind of nonsense he was yapping about, and he made it clear his help came with a condition, since this rescue mission would cost 1 million. In addition, they had to later include him on the official list of external professionals, according to the highest payment rate. Over the radio, the deputy director warned the monster was at least level 8, and that rescuing the people would require at least one full team. Therefore, he wanted to know whether our boy would bear the consequences if he failed. He noticed he was finally speaking with a superior, but realized they still didn't trust his word. Even so, he said it was fine, since if he failed, he could pay with his life. On the other hand, if he succeeded, he wouldn't want only money, as he would have to be respectfully invited to join the bureau. The deputy director found this absurd, but at that moment a little girl got captured by the vine, and our boy saw her being taken away. He reflected that he'd sensed something was wrong before, as the monster shouldn't have reacted merely upon seeing people. It was more as though someone had entered its detection range. This is because he tested it and got certain something was moving underground. Therefore, the first time he acted, he used the art of wind control, and tried to move as delicately as possible. He went to rescue her anyway, and used his shared vision. As expected, there were monsters moving underground. The withered bloodvines detect approaching enemies, not through sight, but through the vibrations felt by their roots. He rushed forward to cut them first, and once close enough, struck in every possible direction, saving the little girl. Then he moved on to the next step, and rescued all the other captured hostages, while also completely killing the monster. Frightened, the little girl ran to her mother, and the officer asked whether our boy was really a soldier, as he'd made it look far too easy. Meanwhile, the deputy director stayed silent, since he'd just watched everything that happened in the square, and Wang said it was time for the administration to fulfill its part of the agreement. He stressed again it was time for them to keep their promise, and the officer in charge gave permission to the officer, who approached our boy and handed him a card containing 1 million. The administration also added him to the official list of external professionals with the highest payment rate. He felt better since he'd now be able to explore dungeons more easily. Then he said he'd leave, and that if they needed anything, they only had to call. But the girl asked him to wait and questioned how he'd known about the crisis in advance, since gray zones appear without any pattern. He revealed the gray zone had been artificially created, and that the administration had probably already begun to suspect this as well. After all, someone is organizing their appearances. Therefore it isn't random, and he told them to connect the events of the past to figure out the next location. This time he left for good. Meanwhile, at the Eye of Terminus, Senior Executive Lamplighter is gathered with the others. He points out the incident involving the withered bloodvine should have caused greater panic, but someone quickly suppressed it. Because of this, he concludes a variable has infiltrated their plans. He opens his panel and explains only 3 individuals got considered connected to the vine incident and met the criteria. Therefore, to identify the true variable, the safest method is to force those 3 to enter the same dungeon, but it would be difficult to make them work together without a reason. With that said, he concludes by revealing the trap has already been prepared. Sometime later, our boy finishes another job. Shortly after leaving, he notices the administration's communication ring ringing. It's her, saying a medium-sized gray zone has appeared near the 6th elementary school and that he must hurry. He says it's fine and heads to the location. Along the way, he thinks about the small monsters from the gray zones, as they constantly launch surprise attacks, but are easy to deal with. The more troublesome ones are the average-sized zones, and if the rewards are high, they'll directly affect the surrounding area. After arriving at the designated location, the girl introduces Aya as the person responsible for the support and treatment department. The man says he's heard a great deal about Wang, as he is a powerful warrior who resolved the Bloodvine incident. Chu Wei tells them to stop wasting time with idle chatter, as the situation is complicated, and ordinary team members would only be a burden. Therefore, only the 3 elite members got recruited. They stand before the dense fog, which is even spreading throughout the entire block. At that moment, someone emerges from within the fog. Wang knows they are members of the Interceptors Guild. They often send people into dungeons to grab equipment. The captain orders the man to leave since he doesn't have permission. The man explains medium-sized zones are the ones most likely to provide fixed item drops and that naturally, he wants to claim them first. She tells him not to act so carelessly, as this could spread throughout the entire city. The arrogant guy doesn't want to hear the administration's nonsense and says all those people are useless. The girl starts growing furious until Wang grabs her arm and asks her to calm down, since they can first see what the guy is capable of. After all, if he manages to deal with the monsters, he will simply save the administration's strength. However, if things go wrong, the bonus and fame will all belong to them, since the guy will be dead. This infuriates the madman, as they're dragging the Interceptors Guild's name through the mud, and our boy simply points out that if he's truly capable, he won't stop him. The guy gives his first demonstration, and begins killing the giant monsters. At first he thought it would be difficult, but he realizes they are nothing special. He even takes the opportunity to show off, since in his mind, the guild is stronger than the administration. However, he finds it strange no equipment is dropping, and also notices the gray zone has disappeared. To make matters worse, a thick black mist revives the monster, which quickly escapes through an alley. The guy simply can't believe this could happen since his guild dominated the battle. Wang approaches him and tells the trash to step aside, since they'd only wasted everyone's time, and now he will show him how to eliminate a real monster. The monster, accompanied by the mist, starts moving through the city, jumping from building to building until it spots a little boy in the street and heads toward him to devour him. However, Wang arrives in time, saves the boy, and tells him to get away quickly, as the area is dangerous. Without wasting any time, the child thanks him and runs into the crowd. Our boy blocks the monster's first attack and then rushes closer, trying to strike different parts of the creature's body. However, amid this, he notices something strange because he struck both the shell and the abdomen, and even the front legs seem exactly the same. Strangely, the monster isn't agile in its movements. Its shell isn't indestructible, and it doesn't avoid having its vital points struck during combat. His first suspicion is that this monster isn't truly a living being. The creature attacks again, and he blocks it with his sword before unleashing a powerful attack that sends it flying. He finds the situation troublesome, but his primary mission is to evacuate the civilians first. Therefore, he orders his team to clear the crowd, and they begin coordinating everyone, prioritizing the injured so they can receive treatment first. The Interceptors Guild takes advantage of the administration being busy and sees this as their chance to deliver the final blow to the monster. Wei realizes they're insane since the students haven't even been evacuated yet. But the guy doesn't care about saving people, because whoever lands the fatal blow will receive the reward. Therefore, he attacks with all his strength, while the monster lies defenseless on the ground. After doing so, he celebrates, believing the reward now belongs to them. However, once again the creature releases a strange mist, this time green, frightening the group because the monster's head was crushed, yet it's still coming back to life. Wang approaches and says the guy has once again been deceived by the monster, and apparently never learns from his mistakes. The creature releases a gray vine that advances across the ground toward him, but Wang simply raises his sword and drives it into the ground. He then deflects every attack coming his way. Soon afterward, the group notices the monster has simply disappeared, and our boy concludes the beetle isn't actually real. It is a body composed of countless tiny beetles. Rather than an insect hiding inside a shell, it's more like these insects formed the shell themselves. As soon as the shell breaks, they scatter and flee. When they find something weaker, they regroup and form a new giant beetle. Since he needs to know where these creatures are going, he uses his shared vision. This power connects him to the animals in the area, allowing him to discover where the smaller creature is, since it's clearly the commander insect leading the swarm. With that in mind, he approaches the madman and slashes the beetle, the strike passing through the guy's hair and leaving him terrified, since he's now nearly bald. However, the attack eliminates the leader, and the swarm starts losing control. Our boy warns that none of them will escape alive,